What's wrong with Thomas this time?
Well, the doctors are calling it manualitis. It's not like when you see enthusiasts on the internet say, oh, manual's the only way. For Thomas, he has to shift all the time. It's like a compulsion, it's like a tic.
And how long has this been going on?
Well, it's since the Zs.
Oh, it's a disease?
No, it's not, well, it is a disease, but since the Z4, since they've added the manual, it's non-stop now. And it's really getting in the way of social relationships and work.
What's the cure?
Oh, the doctors have tried everything. Absolutely everything. They prescribed him DSG, PDK, even CBT, but nothing works. As you see him right now, this is the Thomas that we're all just going to have to get used to. The man that will literally shift anything.
And is it just on the right? What if you're driving in England?
Oh, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
England.
So it's the other side of the car.
It's left.
Well, we would travel.
Watching Throttle House. I'm Thomas.
And I'm James.
And this is the new BMW Z4 manual.
But why would you get one of those when for a lot less money you can have one of these?
Because maybe you want something new and powerful. Because under the hood of this Z4 M40i sits the legendary B58 engine, a turbocharged inline-six that pumps out 382 horsepower. Or maybe you want new styling, or nicer materials, or fancier tech. And if that's not selling you, then... Well, actually, when this car came out, I wasn't sold either. Okay, here's the thing. Often in these old versus new episodes, I champion the older car. I like older cars. But alas, today, I am in the new BMW Z4, which is a problem because I don't really like this new generation of BMW Z4. We tested it way back in 2019 when it came out, and it's kind of the same car as the new Supra, and both I and James liked the Supra better. I thought the Z4 was not dialed in. The suspension was a mess. I didn't like the way that it drove. Didn't like the way that it looked. Didn't like the way that it went. I didn't like the Z4. But this latest Z4 benefits from the Handschalter package, which is German for hand shift. They're very literal people. But this package also comes with other benefits, like springs, front and rear, are different. The anti-roll bars are different. The damper tuning is different. The steering tuning is different, and it gets a staggered setup. That means a bigger wheel in the rear than the front. And in the world of tuning and tweaking cars, all of those things that I just said mean that this might as well be a completely different car. That means that this Z4 is what the Z4 always should have been. The manual transmission is brilliant. This car actually drives like my M2, but better. Honestly. Not only do the revs fall quickly and the shifter's fun to use, but you get to shift into third before you break the law. So you're shifting all the time. And all of those tweaks to the suspension mean that this handles exactly like the Z4 should have. It feels like a slightly more refined Miata. The front end just kind of darts in, you heel toe into second, and the rear goes like a BMW. You don't get that in a Boxster with that engine over the rear. You get that rear end play. Pops and bangs on the overrun there too. That's just good fun. This is a playful roadster. It's sharp. The damping is correct. Steering isn't very good, but I'm used to saying that these days. and it sounds great. One of the better B58 exhausts I think I've heard. There's a nice little kind of high-pitched note to it that I can hear with the top down. There's lots of burbles and bangs when you're off the throttle. This is one of the few modern BMWs that I felt drives like what a BMW should. Engaging, fun, sporty, refined. This is a good BMW. And you know what? I can't think of a single reason why you would buy the old one over this one.
I can think of 80,000 reasons why not. Yeah, I think Thomas neglected to tell you that that one he's in, with the hand shitter package and the fancy green paint, costs $100,000 Canadian. This is $20,000, so 15,000 US dollars, and it's the original Z4, the 2003. And this is the 3.0 specification Z4, the more coveted one from the time, because whilst there was a 2.5 litre straight six as well, this smooth Silver Surfer you see before you is packing 225 horsepower. It's also almost 600 pounds lighter than the one Thomas is in, a number so significant it's got its own show on TLC. In my mind then, this is already a more pure sports car, and one that, thanks to our friends at Leading Edge Motorcars who have let us borrow it for this review, is for sale, and I say it again, for the equivalent of $15,000 US. That's the same price as a used 4th generation MX-5, except it has more power. Although from the driver's seat, I guess given the extra weight, it feels about the same. It's like a sub 6 second 0 to 60 time. But it's smooth. That straight six is smooth, and unlike the one Thomas is driving, I want to chase revs in this because there is no push. It sort of starts in the rev range and you're expecting this turbo push, but there are no turbos. So it just gradually builds power and it sounds good. And so it's one that invites you to rev it out again and again and again. It just feels like it can take it, because much like that B58 engine in the new one, this is also made of tough stuff.
Isn't that right, Thomas?
Sure is. That's the M54, my friend. Legendary engine. God's own engine, they call it. Yep.
And you've got one of these, don't you?
I do, in my race car.
And how's it going?
It blew up last weekend.
It blew up.
It doesn't sound that loud. There's not a crazy amount of induction sound. In fact, a lot of people who own these cars do a sound generator mod, they call it. There's a tube in the engine bay that transports engine sound to the cabin, but there's foam in it. So a lot of people take that out and then put the tube back in, and it creates a lot of induction sound. And you can sort of cut up the foam and decide how much induction sound you want. It's kind of a cool mod, and it's free. And then you get to listen to just glorious straight six sounds. The MX-5 comparison is interesting to me, more so because this car came from a time where you may have heard, erroneously, that some roadsters were chick cars, and the MX-5 and the Boxster got given that title. Somehow, the Z4 escaped that, and this became the masculine option. Maybe it's because Clive Owen jumped it 1,000,000 miles in the air. By the way, can we talk for a moment about how absolutely brilliant all those Clive Owen BMW ads were at the time, directed by John Woo? Why aren't ads like that anymore? Nowadays, the BMW ads are iX's shaming M5s and putting V10 sounds over an M2. Anyway, this became the Roadster for men. And normally when that happens, things become less fun, like cocktails. If a cocktail is tasty and looks fun, it's girly. And as far as toy roadsters go, I want my toy roadster to be fun and joyful. So if that same cocktail logic applies to the roadsters, does that mean that this has lost its joy? We'll get to that in a second. First of all, there's some firsts for this vehicle. It was the first non-M BMW that got an SMG gearbox, that simulated manual gearbox, and it got trashed. I read the Car and Driver, the Motor Trend, they hated it.
But fortunately for us, today's tester is a manual, and in this car, it's pretty good.
I'm so used to the new BMWs having this sort of elastic feel followed by some weird notchiness as you enter the gear. And the good news is this only has one of those. It's lost the elastic thing, but it's a bit notchy still. However, it does feel quite satisfying. The other first for this car was that it was one of the first, if not the first BMW that got electric power steering. And I know you're thinking, well, that's ruined it then. No, it's actually really good. And we've all had a little go in this car today, and we've all sort of loved the steering. It weights up beautifully, there's tons of feedback. I don't quite understand what happened, because the new ones don't feel anywhere near as good as this. I've been surprisingly and thoroughly impressed with this car. And it's not, I wouldn't say it's more joyful than an MX-5, you can feel the extra weight, and compared to the new one, it doesn't have that, what Thomas has called, being rugby tackled from the side front end as you turn in, because suspension has come a long way, as have tyres. This feels more connected to me than any modern BMW I've driven. Connected. And it points to a time, I think, in BMW's history where the things they excelled at, that made the sweet spot lower down in the size range. Not that they made bad SUVs back then, and by the way, they shared this 3-litre engine as well, the X5s and stuff. But nowadays, BMW, what they're so good at is luxury and isolation and tech and build quality, and that lends itself to the SUVs and where the market's going. But I don't want to go where the market's going. In here, I want to go wherever this is going. And it officially, in my mind, is a toy roadster that went from, I would never really consider the BMW, I don't want the heavy thing trying to be luxurious, to, yeah, this kind of works. And for the price, considering how clean this particular one is, deciding between this and a much lighter MX-5, it's not as easy of an option as I thought it was going to be. And quite a bit of that actually comes down to looks.
It's a pretty good car.
That was a pleasant surprise.
I drove this. It's actually really, really nice. Listen, this is my era of BMW.
You're claiming the era?
This is my era. This got me into cars. And I feel like I owe the M54 B30, the engine in this car, an apology, because mine did blow up, but it deserved to die. It was an honorable death.
Right.
I bought that engine years ago in a truck yard in the middle of the night with 300,000 kilometers on it for $300, and then I tuned the red line to be 7,000 RPM and raced it for 5 years at the limit, hundreds of laps, and it finally gave up. It owes me nothing.
That's about all you can ask of an engine. So there you go, a
cars.
robust thing under there. Okay, so the design of these things.
It's a bit, I don't know, they're not pretty.
So
They're not pretty, are they?
I was reading the old mags when this came out.
The old mags, you sure here?
And
the old mags.
And so first of all, this is Chris Bangle era.
It is Bangle,
right? This is the
yes.
era that was looked upon not fondly,
Yeah.
but now everyone's like, bring him back, please.
Yeah, because Doma gets to do Chedge.
That's the new guy, yeah.
Yeah, and people are not really stoked with what he's doing these days.
I've got a quote here.
I'm one of those people.
This is from Car and Driver back in the day.
Yep.
Tell me if this sounds like a familiar concept from BMW.
Okay.
Bangle says he doesn't care about people like me, the journalist. He feels BMW has to differentiate its design to stay ahead of the competition. He wants to polarize opinion.
They don't need to do that. They're still doing it.
They're still doing it.
It's very frustrating because it's so close to just being pretty, but it looks designed still.
But do you know what else is familiar?
What?
All the journos back then disliked it, and they said within a year or two, we've actually warmed to it. God. So it really is a similar story.
Nothing is ever new.
But Bangle was smart. He gave this cool marketing language. He said they used flame surfacing. And so, listen, I think in the flesh, it's not a terrible looking car.
No, it's not bad looking, but it has this weird line that cuts through the head. It looks like in a movie when there's a fight scene and someone gets cut through the head with a samurai sword.
Before it falls.
They sit there for a second and go, it looks like it's about to do that in the front.
I'm actually envious of some of the angles of this car. The rear 3/4 on this and the coupe.
It looks good.
Fantastic.
No,
the way that the ducktail sort of that, whatever it is, sweeping spoiler, I'm jealous of that. I wish the MX-5 looked like that.
And to their credit, you can spot one of these a mile away. That's the Z4. It's not like which roadster is that? It's so obviously what it is. And that's still true. That's still true of this one, right?
Yes, this one looks more muscular. It still has a similar ducktail.
Yeah.
The front still does it no favors.
Well, but listen, it could be worse. Have you seen any other BMW right now?
Well, it's been 5 years now. Have you warmed to it?
Like the look of this?
Yeah.
I've never really hated it. I've never really loved it, and I'm still rough with the same. The paint helps, though.
This is a beautiful paint.
Yeah.
It upsets me that you have to spend $6,000 to get no orange peel, but it's
$6,000
Canadian,
Yeah.
so that's maple syrup money, but it sparkles in the sunshine, looks absolutely beautiful.
What's it called again? What's the color?
This is frozen deep green metallic,
Frozen deep green metallic.
and I believe this is sterling silver.
This is nice. This has got Bond vibes, Clive Owen vibes.
It's
right?
also BMW knowing themselves,
Like
because
Socrates.
yeah, because look at that piece of design.
I know.
The BMW badge over the indicator. That's their way of saying you don't need indicators. It's a BMW. But it actually allows for a very clean profile on this car. So
I do like it. Should we look at the interiors, because there's similarities, and you know, for the price that you can get this car, you're getting quite a nice place to sit.
well, let's go sit in it.
Okay. It's pretty nice.
It's spacious.
It's designed.
It is designed. This piece here, this
Yeah.
one, this brushed finish here.
Yeah, no, it's a good look. I actually really like the brush.
This could be had in sycamore wood.
Sycamore?
Sycamore.
Whoa.
Yeah.
No.
There's no more options than that though. They said I'm sycamore of having.
I knew there was a joke coming.
I didn't even know that. I completely cocked that up.
Oh man. Okay. Anyway, so this is one of those. It seems like it was a special car to them in the era, right? They put
Yes.
like this. It got a unique steering wheel, unique stuff here, unique buttons, right? Like all the 5 Series, the 3 Series, the X5, the X3. They all had very similar interiors, right?
But this feels a bit.
This feels unique, right?
It's also, coming from an MX-5, because we have brought that up, and there'll be no MX-5 hate talk in here.
Right.
But it's more.
I think this has a better interior than the MX-5.
Doesn't have a better interior.
Both the old one and the new one.
than the MX-5 of the time. It did have a much better interior. It's much
course
more
it did.
car. It was much more money.
Yeah.
But just sitting here now, like as a used purchase, this is far more spacious.
Than
Like,
the new one, yeah.
There's no transmission.
new MX-5, I
than,
mean.
Than the new MX-5.
Yeah, see?
Yes, there's no absolutely. There's
Yeah.
the ND has a transmission tunnel there that makes you cramped the whole time.
Yeah. Oh, but at least this has the same headroom as the new MX-5.
Unlimited.
No. I mean with the roof up.
Oh.
No, it's better. It's a lot better. So
Yes.
as like a taller, stronger person, you could fit in,
Which are people I usually say don't deserve to enjoy toy roadsters because they get everything else in life. But yes, technically, if you're a taller person, you can
Yes.
fit in this car.
Yeah.
The finishes are quite nice. There's still a lack of storage like the MX-5. Like this.
Oh, whoa.
Don't get me wrong. The cup holder's a lovely addition.
Hold on.
Yes, the MX-5 has that. That's defunct. Time to move to capacitive touch buttons. Give it some. Give it some.
Talk amongst yourselves.
What is going on?
Won't open.
Lovely steering wheel.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not accepting this.
If you must know, it opened on a previous take very easily. Okay.
And it is closed.
Okay.
What did we have for lunch?
There was
Right.
a brownie at the end.
It's quite an emotional interior.
Should we go to look at the new one?
No, I think we can eventually, but I just want to sing praises on the steering wheel.
Great steering wheel.
Which-
Also,
which-
to be fair, this is a unique steering wheel to this car.
Yes.
Which is really cool.
The gauge cluster, simple, not trying to be overly ambitious.
No.
The driving position, I actually enjoyed the driving position more in this than the new one, because we both lived with the new one
Oh,
for a
really?
few days. Yeah.
Interesting.
It doesn't feel like I'm in as much of a bowl. My Audi TTs do
Oh,
the
you got
same
like
thing.
good elbow height.
Good elbow height, yeah, it's just comfortable.
Yeah, you see more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whereas in the new one, sort of elbows up here, and I don't know, something between the way the shifter and real handbrake,
Yeah, that's
good
nice.
steering.
Yep. Weirdly good steering for being electric. Got to reiterate that.
It's really won me over.
It's really interesting. It just proves to you that It's all about tuning.
Yeah, we have luxuries that you don't normally expect from toy roadsters. Like these are electrically movable seats. We've got heated seats. We have no ventilator seats, which is something I'll talk about in the new one as well. You going for it again?
Yeah.
And then we have an electric roof, which actually goes up and down very quickly. What did we time it? It was like 9 seconds down, 8 seconds up.
Yeah,
Or the other way around. Which is interesting that it works because they usually go on these sort of cars. That's the first one. The motor gets wet because it's in the boot, and then the roof stops working. But in this car, obviously, that one spring-loaded button has stopped working.
Yes.
Should we see if it's working in the new one?
Sure.
Go on.
Oh,
Beautiful.
there you go.
Look at that.
Unbelievable. That's quite a bowl, isn't it?
It is quite.
That's gonna get so many like skin flakes, toenails, and like
in your car, maybe.
in anyone's car.
Quite wonderful seats.
They're very comfy.
Yeah.
I really like them.
Also heated.
Why aren't they cool?
Why aren't they called?
Why aren't they cool?
BMW, why let the Boxster have cooled ventilator seats and not have it? You have to, if you're making a Roadster, there should be in the office, on the whiteboard, solve for Swampass.
Yes.
That's literally your only task.
Yeah, that's the equation. Solve now.
I have sweat liters into this chair in mere minutes. I've got a real problem.
You clearly,
All right?
yeah.
Just give me a ventilated seat. Otherwise, they're really beautifully contoured.
Yeah.
Way more huggy than the old one.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, this is the M40i. Don't
That's
forget.
the 3 litre.
Okay, sure. It's the kind of the M Sport one. This is weird because this is now old BMW interior.
Right, with all the numbers here and everything.
Well, also this is the old iDrive. By old, I mean 2 generations ago.
Well, third gear is my favourite because then I can just press next track while I'm here.
Nice.
And I'm third gear most of the way through Toronto. Speaking of Toronto, this passes the Toronto test.
Good ride.
The ride is good.
That's weird.
It's weird, especially considering small wheelbase, but
Well, it's cool because there's obviously all the different driving modes, right? But there's Sport, Sport Plus, and Sport Individual. And in Sport Individual, you can choose to have the suspension soft,
Right.
and everything else sporty.
Yeah.
And you have to go in and manually select to turn the auto rev match off, which I did in Sport Individual.
they still haven't nailed some things. They didn't nail the shifter. It still feels BMW-y.
That is just why I don't understand, but they just don't seem to get.
Yeah.
Right, like on my race car, same setup. It's actually had the same shift knob back in the day. I put a chassis mounted shifter on it. It's like steel on steel on steel with like a DSSR. That's dual shear selector rod, if you have any. And it still kind of goes boom into gear.
They don't change it, and it's like, yeah, okay, it's the way it's always been. It's tradition, but you don't need to do the tradition.
No, it could be better.
Like the Supra shifter with the same engine
Somehow is better.
is better.
Why?
And also, I resent that it's like a special run end of year thing in the US.
Right.
Credit to Canada,
Yep.
the manual is a no-cost option,
That's
which is a bit strange because you do get all those upgrades for free in Canada.
You should get the manual.
Yeah, you just have to pay out the arse for the color, which is the difference.
But you don't have to.
But you don't have to.
Right.
The old one, the manual was the standard.
Yeah.
It literally is called standard.
Well
And now,
done, yeah.
now it has to be this more expensive
Yeah.
special thing. And as nice as that is, I think they should be condemned for making it more expensive and special because that's not
Yeah.
what manual is. Manual to me feels cheaper. Even when I drive this,
Yes.
this car feels more expensive with the ZF transmission, but this is still better. It's more fun. And
It's more fun.
As far as shifters go,
It's a good man. Like, well, not necessarily the shifter, but
Yeah.
the manual experience.
the manual experience in this
The way
is
the revs
good.
fall, the gear, the ratios, everything's fun.
And I feel cheekier in it. I thought I'd get in. I find that when you get into higher horsepower things with better grip,
Yeah.
you can't have as much fun around town. That's actually not true in this.
It turns out you need a B58, and then you have
B58.
all of the torque you need to break those rears loose anytime you want.
This is older BMW, but this is also smaller BMW. I think this is similar to the screen you get in like the 2 Series and stuff. This isn't the
Yes.
fancier, bigger screen stuff.
No, yeah. This
But
is
the
older.
materials feel good. You don't get the design on the door as you do on like an M240i.
I don't miss it.
You don't miss it.
No, it's classier.
It feels like there's a lot happening in front of us here.
That's just the case with modern cars, and
Yeah.
especially modern BMWs, right? It's just a bit messy. But, it's okay. It's okay because it's a sports car. I don't really care. I get in, I put it in sport individual mode or whatever. I shift my gears manually. I don't pay attention to anything else. Top goes down. That's what it's for.
Does it feel like a $100,000 interior?
Yeah, I suppose. And no.
I'm being mean. Well, first of all, $6,000 if that is the color.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I should bring it down.
And also, I think they've embossed, they've outlined the logos on the back now, so completely different car. But you know, I was looking the 2009 35i Z4. That one, well loaded, was 70,000 US. So it has always been. You know,
it's always been an expensive car.
You know, as much as we make fun, but then I question it because I look at the Boxster. I expect a Boxster S out in Canada, and it, with a few niceties, it was like 11, 12 grand more than this with ventilated seats.
That's true, but it's a different car. It's a really different vibe. The whole idea of this car is that it is a BMW. It does the BMW things. It's a bit dumb. It loses the rear end a lot.
Yeah.
Right? It wants to drift everywhere. A Boxster is so serious.
Yeah, the edges are softer on this.
Yes.
This feels. Have you ever got into ping pong?
Like the game?
Table tennis, yeah.
Yeah, I've been very into it.
You know the ping pong bats that you find at like a summer camp where they're like razor thin and they're like. Clock!
Oh yeah, and they go clock.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
The Z4 to me has always felt like, okay, I'm going to start getting into ping pong now, and you get that heavier one with the leather.
That's weird. That is exactly the feel.
And you up your game. So the Miata is the clock.
Yeah, it is.
And this
it's
is like
fun.
this is the leather bound, technically nicer one,
but a little bit more insulated from the experience of clocking the ball.
So it's a
Interesting.
softer.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, more
well
luxurious and softer than a Miata. Not as sharp, but more boisterous than a Boxster, because you can't mess around in a Boxster, and if you do, you're in trouble.
Yes.
On public roads.
Yeah. No, this does all the BMW things. It has that layer of refinement, layer of quality, but it is also playful underneath.
All right, here's a question I'm going to ask you.
Okay,
We're
go
going to
ahead.
end on this.
Uh-huh.
When we reviewed this versus the Supra 5 years ago, we chose the Supra.
Yes.
Now we have a manual version of both.
Oh my God.
Take money out of it because the Supra is still a cost saving by over 10 grand, I think. What's your choice?
That's actually a very difficult question. I think it would literally come down to coupe or convertible. Which one did I want?
Interesting.
That's all it is. If I was looking for a coupe because I was going to do a lot of track days, Supra. If I'm looking for something for the weekends that I want the top down, this one.
That's a graduation for the BMW.
That is, yeah.
So, there it is. The Z4 has graduated. The new one now feels like it finally captures the spirit of what BMW intended this car to be when they cooked it up all those years ago. The improvements for the manual trim are more than the sum of their parts in my mind, and for many, the matte green paint job does the rest.
But non-functionado center compartments aside, the old one still gives you a manual top-down inline-six BMW experience for a shocking amount less money. It does feel less substantial, obviously, but it is no less fun to drive, and the design, I think, is aging gracefully now. So, both cars in this test are kind of great, and considering what they go up against in their price points, they're both worthy of consideration, even if you are prone to manualitis.